Hi guys, I'm Robbie Susan Chandler here from Quincy, Florida, right outside Tallahassee, Florida. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I hope everyone's doing well, and I'm so glad you're joining me today to learn how to make a card. So, without ado, let's get started. I want to share this card with you that involves two techniques: stamping with Saran wrap and using masks to make your image. So let's start with the Saran wrap technique. Saran wrap stamping is a technique that does just what it says. You stamp with Saran wrap. So I'm going to show you how to make this background on this card. And all of that back there was done with Saran wrap and ink and an ink pad. So let's get started on this. Alright, first you want a piece of basic white paper, or you could use any color. This was 4 by 5 1/4, and I cut it with the next to the largest deckled rectangle die. And then you want to get a post-it note, punch a circle out, and this is going to be our sun. So let's start with that. Now here's where we start with our stamping. I'm going to use Daffodil Delight, and what I have done is wadded up a piece of Saran wrap, and I put them on these little clippy things, and that way you don't get ink all over your fingers, and you just tap tap tap. And I'm going to tap inside that circle to make my sun, and I want it pretty dark, so I'm going to stamp quite a bit there. See that cool look that it gives? Now if you want a little more filled in, just kind of smear it a little bit. Alright, I want to show you that. See, there's our sun. Alright, we're going to come back to that color, so I'm just going to set it over here for a minute. Okay, now that we have that, let's remove our mask. And we want to cover up, and don't worry about this around the edge, it really doesn't matter. So we're going to cover this sun up with the circle that we punched out. Yeah, let's hope it sticks. That's good enough, because we're going to be pouncing down, so you won't be getting it underneath. And then we're going to put a mask to cover our bottom part, because we're going to start by stamping this crumb cake part on the top. So I'm going to put my little heel top down. Let's see, I think I want it about there. That looks good. And I'm using masking tape. Now you could just use a post-it note. It's a little bit harder because post-it note usually only sticks here, unless you have those that are sticky all over the back like this one was, but I didn't have a bigger one like this one. But anyway, the masking tape works well too. So up here on this part, I'm going to use crumb cake. See, I even have my little things marked with the color of the cardstock, because when I use it in a class, I didn't want people to get it all mixed up. So we're going to pass. I'm going to start at right above this, because I want this area darker, and then I'm going to work up into the top of the cardstock. And like I told you, you could do a little smearing here. Now around this, I'm just going to pounce straight up and down so I don't get underneath that circle. Alright, this is coming along good. A little bit up here. I want it a little bit lighter up here at the top and darker close to my post-it note or my masking tape. Here, that's looking about like what I want it. See, that doesn't take very long. Isn't that a cool look? It's an entirely different look than anything else that we stamp with. Okay, let's just stick with that. Alright, now I'm going to remove the circle from our sun, and I want to fill in. You see how it's kind of got this white look around it? Let's take our Daffodil Delight. By the way, this was Daffodil Delight. I don't think I told you that at the beginning. And I'm just going to start doing a little sponging out around it, a little smearing. I want it to look like my sun rays are kind of radiating out from this. And see, if you want a smaller spot, just kind of wad it up with your fingers. There we go. So see how we kind of have that glow coming out from our sun? Perfect. Let me get that spot right there. It needs a little sunshine. There we go. Alright, so we have our sun now. We've got our upper part, which is the crumb cake. Now, when you tore this piece of masking tape, hopefully you will hang on to this piece, because they match up. What you have to do is remove this piece, and then you want to turn this piece around and cover what you've just done. Now make sure you leave a little bit of that ink showing that you used on the top, because if you don't, you're going to have this cool, well not so cool, white streak going across there. Alright, so what I did for my next step is I'm going to use Old Olive. And Old Olive, I'm just going to start up here and just kind of come down in this area. And I don't really want to go real dark with the Old Olive, kind of about like that. Okay, I think that's plenty of that one. And then we're going to finish the bottom with Mossy Meadow because I want it a lot darker. You see here where it's lighter here and darker at the bottom. So let's go with the Mossy Meadow to finish it up down here. I'm going to do a little smearing too to get it to fill in, to give a little darker look. I've noticed too, after these dry, you see how this one is not as blotchy looking? Well, it was when I first did it, but as it dries, they seem to mellow together and just make a nice soft blending in. Okay, I think that's plenty dark for that. Okay, and I think we have finished our background. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Now that is a really neat look. And I think there's an artist that kind of, his drawings look like this. So maybe Van Gogh has kind of a weird look to his. Now I'll show you another one I did with different color combinations, but I really didn't like these together as much as I did this one. So this is the one I ended up using on a card I made. And if you'd like to see the card I made, I'll put a link on the bottom. So here's the Saran wrap stamping. I hope you'll try this technique. The next part of this card is making our tree with the Frosted Forest mask. So let's take a look at how you would use these masks. I want to introduce you to the Frosted Forest mask and some dies. But the card I'm going to concentrate on today, or the tree I'm going to concentrate on today, is this one, which is basically this one. And this set you could also make what I call a spruce type tree. This one I'm kind of calling a pine tree because it's got this little needle looks. But the set comes with 6 sets of masks, 3 that make the Christmas trees. And you notice there's a small one on here too. I cut the big one out of here, but here's the smaller one. And they're labeled A, B, C to tell you which order to use them in, and there's little notches there for you to line them up, but I'll show you that when I'm making this tree. So that's one set that's in here, and then the other set is the one we're going to use, and they're labeled 1, 2, and 3. Now this also comes with a stamp set, which is this one called Frosted Forest. And to start this tree, we're actually going to stamp this tree, the outline. Now you could do this tree without this image first, but I really like it better when you stamp this first. And I like this tree better too when you stamp this image first. Now if you don't want to use the mask, here's the die set that comes with this. And look at these beautiful trees that you can cut out of with the dies. And then here's a little set of 3 right here, but here's the outline ones, and here's the one we're going to use today to cut out our tree. So it's a really nice set. You get lots of cool trees, and then there's also some dies to cut out these birds that are here. Alright, so let's start on this mask and see how we use them. Okay, the first step, like I said, is to stamp your tree, which we've done. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tape it down to my grid paper. I'm going to tape it pretty good. And next you start with number 1, which is this one, and it's basically the trunk. And you lay it down here and match it up. And see how I've got the limbs in there? Let me twist the bottom a little bit. There, that looks pretty good right there. And once you get that matched up, you want to tape it down. And I'm just using painter's tape. So I'm going to tape it at the, let's see, where do I want to tape it? I'm going to tape it on the side. I'm going to get it lined up really good. There we go. You just have to keep wiggling around till you get it where you want it. It's like you get the bottom lined up and then the top gets out of line, then you get the top lined up and the bottom gets out of line. All right, I think I've got it now. All right, I'm going to put my tape over here. All right, now the first thing you need to do is fill in this little notch here. And I found it's helpful if you draw along the top of that and maybe even down the side to make sure you get this straight when you line up the next one. So there's our first one, and we're going to start with pecan pie, which is the ink that I stamped my tree in. So pecan pie is our first step. So get some on your brush and just start filling it in. And you can go as dark or as light as you want. That's the nice thing about using these brushes. You can just, whatever your desire is, you know, how dark or how light. I kind of tend to like to go dark with my tree trunk and my limbs because I feel like, you know, they're back in the tree and they're going to be hidden a little bit. So if you want to take a little peek, since we've got it taped on the side, you can kind of lift it up. Like, yeah, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go with that. All right, let's put the pecan pie aside. So that was our number 1 mask. So let's remove it. And let's go to number 2, which is this one. Now I want you to notice these little spiky things here. Can you see those? Those kind of presented a problem when I had my class. You had to be really careful because they wanted to go in the wrong direction. All right, so if things go like they should, you can line up this with the little lines that we drew, and it should fall right in place, which basically it does. See, those are on top of that. That's on top of that. It's a pretty good match there. All right, let's tape it down. Now for this one, you know, I'm gonna swivel that a little bit. There. That looks better there. Yeah. To see, my pencil line was just a touch off up there, but that's close enough right there. Perfect. All right, so this time I'm going to use Old Olive. So I like to use the lighter color next to, because it's kind of a background color. And you don't have to go super, super dark with this one because you're going to be adding Mossy Meadow for our last one. And we found it works better, and I kind of forgot there, if you kind of swirl up to keep those little pointy things from bending. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Let's take a peek. Oh yeah, and I like the shading where it's not just one color. All right, so that's our Old Olive step. See how pretty this tree is building up so far? Take a look. Look at that. Makes you just want to stop there, doesn't it? And you could. You don't have to add the 3rd step. All right, so here's our 3rd one. So let's try to match our notches. We found this one to be the hardest one to line up for some reason. It's kind of like it's a little bit different than the others, but I think that's good right there. I think you're going to find it just doesn't totally line up. It's just kind of a guesstimation on this one, but it looks good wherever you put it. Now I'm going to put a little Mossy Meadow on here, and I'm going to show you a comparison. Here's the one on my card. See how dark I did my Mossy Meadow? And here's another one I did later, which I didn't do it quite as dark. And I actually kind of like the one that's not quite as dark. I feel like the tree blends together more. I feel like this one's a little blotchy. So let's see what I end up with today. Let's get a little on here. Yeah, this is going to be a little dark. So let me just let's put one coat on and then come back and see what we got. And this is really fun. I didn't realize how much fun masks could be. And I wasn't sure how it was going to work out in my class, but it really did. People had fun doing it. Oh yeah. All right. I think I'm going to stop there. See that? I think that's just enough contrast to make my tree look really good. I'm going to bring it up closer to the light so you can see it. All right, see that? Isn't that pretty? I'm happy with that one. Now, one more thing I did, because I'm going to put this tree on this crumb cake background. See how stark the Very Vanilla is when you put it on the crumb cake? So I just took my crumb cake brush and I just kind of did some brushing of some crumb cake around in the middle to make it not look quite as Very Vanilla. You know, you wanted to blend that background in some. In fact, if you wanted to, you could blend some of the old olive down around the bottom part, down here, just in that area, because that's going to be where the tree is on your background, if you're doing the background that I'm doing, of course. Okay, so now let's just take our die, and we're going to bring our Big Shot, or our cut emboss machine. I'll quit calling it a Big Shot one day. And let's line this up. Am I in the camera? Yes, very good. Now you may, and we found that the bottom was the hardest to line up. You kind of had to swivel that bottom some, or you got a wider streak on one side. And if you want to, you could just stick a little piece of tape on here to keep this from moving around on you. Put your plate on. Now let's run it through. Okay, let's see what we got. Anxious to see it. What about you? Get this out of the way. All right, here we go. Ah, there it is. Isn't that pretty? So you can just put it on your background and see how it all kind of blends together. Isn't that a cool mask? I think you'll enjoy using these, and they really are a lot of fun. All right, now that we have our background done and we've made our tree with the mask, let's look at all the pieces for this card and put them together. All right, to begin with, I have a card base of Mossy Meadow that's 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. So this is your card base. And then the next piece is Crumb Cake, and it's 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, and it's cut with the largest deckled rectangle die. And we just adhere it to our card front like this. And then the piece that we did our artwork on, that was cut with the next to the largest die, this one, on a piece of basic white. So that's what we cut that piece, this piece, our background piece. Get it up right here. That's what this piece was on. So this started out white, and it's the next to the largest deckled die. And we're just going to put it right here on our card front. And I've noticed as it's dried, it's kind of mellowed and gives a softer look. And then inside, I had a piece of Very Vanilla. It was 5 1/4 by 4, and it was cut with the next to the largest. And I stamped the tree from Frosted Forest, and I stamped that in Crumb Cake so it would be a lighter background. And then I stamped the sentiment, Birthday Wishes for a Day as Great as You Are, and it's from Frosted Forest too, and it was stamped in Mossy Meadow. So that piece goes inside. Isn't that pretty in there with the tree? And now all we have to do is pop our tree on here. So let's do that. I like to put a one-dimensional down here on the trunk so it'll stay. Now I'm going to put this up a little bit, as far up as I can, because I want to show you what I did down here. A little bit over to the sun. How about right there? All right, what I did, I took Early Espresso pen, and I just drew a shadow over here to give the illusion of the sun shining down on that tree. Now you don't have to do that, and you see this tree was higher up, so I had a little bit more shadow there. It all depends upon where you get your place your tree. And then the last thing is our happy birthday, and this was cut with the Stylish Shapes dies, this one right here. And the sentiment was stamped in Mossy Meadow from Country Birdhouse. It says happy birthday right here. Sometimes you just have to go to different sets to find the ones that fit where you want them. So I'm just going to pop that right here across the bottom. And there we go. Isn't that a beautiful card? I really like it. My students love doing it in class. So here you covered two techniques. You did your Saran wrap, and you notice this one's lighter than this one. You can make it as dark or light as you want. And I hope you like my video. I hope you'll try this technique. If you do, let me know. If you need a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. So until next time, happy crafting.